Okay, you've made films that are, extremely, I would say, handled social and politically sensitive issues. What kind of response or audience do you find for those films outside India?
Um, Indian politics, the democracy, the way it is, you know, kind of practiced in India, is very complicated. And so my films obviously become very complicated in terms of narrative. Also, especially the Western countries, they have either known Satyajit Ray's films or they associate Indian films with the song and dance and Shah Rukh Khan and that kind of genre. But the films which are in the middle, they, I think, they haven't yet found a window, which is a very large section of films, which you'll be surprised the amount of experimentation which is going on, new kind of subjects, new kind of directors. Especially people like me. I started with art movies. I primarily was a documentary filmmaker, and then I made films which would be called as a parallel cinema in India. Those films went to the festivals a lot and won a lot of awards. But when we had the free market economy and the funding for parallel cinema or small films almost stopped, we had to find a new way of saying what we wanted to say and using the commercial language. And my very first film in that genre was a film called Death Sentence, Mrityudand, which I did with big stars. I mean, Madhuri Dixit was the biggest female star at that point of time. And then, surprisingly, I got success with the Indian audience. But these films didn't go very much to the foreign shows or the festivals and things like that. But that was okay because in India we have a market which is very big. And from then on, I did a lot of movies which dealt with the socio-political issues, sometimes controversial, sometimes very dangerous. Um, I had to many times, my films at the time of release, we had lots of problems, court cases, people stopping the release of films, my office being stoned, me moving around with security, and all kinds of things happened. But the films found a lot of resonance with the common audience, and I was able to do films which are now very big, with the biggest stars, but they are socio-political movies. There are few filmmakers doing that kind of cinema, and it is being accepted. A film like Madras Cafe, which was recently released, was very well received. It dealt with the Tamilians in Sri Lanka. And my film Satyagraha, which dealt with the uprising of the middle class and the protest which the middle class is kind of like raising against the government and the system and the political parties. And there is an audience for that. But I again say, I was very surprised with this Paris Film Festival when they invited Rajniti, um, which did very well in India. It was a big success. Uh, our films, generally, my films cost 10 to $15 million for production, and we recover the cost and we make profit, and I'm able to do the next film, which is great. And there is no song and dance and those kind of emotional running around the trees in my films ever. They're all very socio-political films. But I think with festivals like these, where serious middle cinema of India is brought into, there will be a lot of social and political identification because you have similar protests, similar social concerns in France or Brazil or Arab countries or Northeast, sort of like East Asian countries. And I think they would be popular.
Which was the most challenging film that you made?
Ah, film-wise, Satyagraha was very challenging. I mean, in terms of narrative, because to be able to create the reasons for conflict, because economy is one kind of problem, but major problem is practicing of democracy in India. It is very dynastic. It has no real democratic process. Numbers, getting a majority means, you have the power. But as we all know, most of the times the majority is wrong. And once you have the numbers, you can decide to do anything which may be wrong. So, thematically, narratively, this was a very difficult film. To be able to create an engaging, emotional story where audience will be able to stay focused on the film, that was challenging.
And production-wise, which was the most challenging? In terms of
Oh, I often have, because see, India is a big country with a lot of people, population, and when you do a social political film, there have to be a lot of people. You have political rallies where you must have thousands of people, because these days it's election time in India, and when there is every single day, like there are like meetings, political meetings, and you have like 100,000, 200,000 people coming for the meeting, which is huge. And you have, when you're making a film which represents that, you need to have that kind of feeling. So often I work with 5,000, 7,000 people on the set.
It's army. Quite an army.
Quite an army. Quite an army to move all those people. If you've seen Rajniti, I'm sure you might have seen it. We often had we had a whole street full of people, and we have to work at least 6 months before we start shooting to train everybody, to make everybody understand what they're supposed to do, because they're not just crowd collected overnight. You work on them, you do workshops with them, and you prepare them, and on every single shooting day you have to dress them up, and you have to position them, and you have to bring them from their, wherever they are staying, to the location, and you have to start shooting at 7:30 in the morning. So you literally start working at 2 in the morning, and I have a crew of about 50 assistants getting the crowd into place before we start the shoot, because the sunlight has to be right.
yeah.
So physically, but I have a very good production team, and in India we work very kind of in cohesive manner, and we are able to achieve a lot compared to the Western crews, or the way they function here. But and it's not expensive, it's affordable.
I'm just interested to know. It's really interesting because you do these political, social movies, and with those great superstars from Hindi movie, the more mainstream cinema, let's say. And I'm interested to know, how do you convince them to play in those movies, and how do you manage, I don't know, their egos and stuff to work with all these casts? Because, for example, in Rajendra, you have very great actors, and how do you do that?
Everybody wonders about that. I get this question pretty often in India. All these big stars, how do they get together to work? Because I have multi-star cast film. In Satyagraha itself, there were several. Amitabh Bachchan, there was Ajay Devgan, there was Manoj Bajpayee, there was Arjun Rampal. These are all actors who do solo movies. But I don't know. I think I'm pure lucky to when I have a story and I fully believe in that story and I go and narrate to them, they believe in me and they are ready to work and they all work as a team. And I have never ever had any problem. No one ever comes late on my sets. No one has thrown any tantrum ever, because my way of working is that before I start the shooting, I will have rehearsals with them, I will have readings with them, I will have chats with them, and I encourage them to ask questions. I say, don't ask me any question when we are shooting, ask them now. Because when we are shooting, we must enjoy the process.
Do you think France, I mean, is exposed adequately to Indian cinema, and do festivals like this Extravagant India can they help in bringing this broader genre of Indian cinema?
No, I think we should have similar festivals in India which are devoted to French cinema. Not the international film festivals, but French film festivals in India. And that opening night, I was so inspired. I said, I mean, this Extravagant India should be reciprocated as Extravagant France, in India. And I'm definitely going to try and make it happen. I mean, we will work it out, and even if we have to start in a small way, we can have in Extravagant France in different cities of India, big cities of India, where we can have the French directors, actors, technicians come in and sort of join with the Indian technicians, even if it is just a dozen films. But let French cinema be, because in India, fortunately, Hollywood has not been able to take the market. It's just 1% of the Indian market. We still have very strong kind of like presence of Indian films, and people are like masses are more tuned to Indian cinema, and they are accepting films like small films like Lunchbox. It did extremely well in India, extremely well. Madras Cafe did extremely well. And the next film I'm trying to do is also, again, I'm trying to do a small film. I'm not trying to do a film with big stars and things like that, because it's the audience is ready, and there are thousands of cinema houses there. And there is, because of the multiplex, there is now space for every small film and foreign film to come in. So I'm positive that niche European cinema can make a mark, and there can be a view, and that will be really like if people in India can understand how the society in France functions, what is the politics of the French kind of government or the French people, and what are the problems which a common Frenchman faces. The stories from here, I think it'll be wonderful. So we'll definitely want it to happen.
Okay, but Extravagant India, do you think it fulfilled its role or ambition of creating this window for what we call alternative Indian cinema in France?
It might take some time. I think it's just the beginning. It's if it's written about more, if it's if it reaches French people more, then next year I think there will be a better attendance, and that's how things begin. I think it's great that it is happening. You don't really have to go to just Cannes
Yes.
or Venice. You can go anywhere, and if people are aware of the kind of Indian films which are being made, because today, at any given point of time, I think there are hundreds of films which are being exhibited at the same time, same day. And so many languages from all over the world, so many people from all the world, so many stories from all the world. From Iran, from Japan, from Indonesia, from Western countries like Brazil, Chile. Every country has such beautiful stories, such beautiful social interaction to say. I think it will be great. We have little windows everywhere.
And how can the Indian industry, help these festivals, become what they should ideally become?
Well, it always is said that if you open your doors, if you open your windows, and if you let the fresh air come in, your house will become healthier. Isn't it?
D'autres questions?
No.
Tu veux le nom quoi?
So what's your next film about?
Good question.
I'm working on two subjects, but probably I think I'm getting more closer to revisiting the society's relationship with police in India. I did it in a film called Gangajal
Mm.
10 years ago. I think it's time to revisit that society's relationship with police because it's at the worst kind of level at this point of time.
So it will be set where? That was set in Bihar, I think.
No, not in Bihar really. It will be.
No, that was set in Bihar.
That was set in Bihar. Gangajal was set in Bihar. But this one could be any Hindi-speaking state.
Are you going to turn a movie in France? You know, Claude Lelouch go in India with Dujardin. It's a known actor in France. Do you yourself, are you going to do something in France?
I would
one
love
day?
to. I love to. I think with such interaction,
Yes.
and you know, it's amazing because it's 3 days I've been in Paris, and I feel so comfortable in Paris. I'm eager to pick up the language and to be able to communicate, which is, you know, a great kind of thing. If you can speak French, you enjoy France more.
Of course.
Yes.
And I keep coming here. In fact, you will be surprised. 3 of my films, I have taken a writing vacation or writing sessions in Corsica.
Yes.
I love that island.
Okay.
Yeah, I go there and stay there for 10 days in some remote hotel and just sit down, enjoy the sea and write. I've done that. Rajniti. One session of writing of Rajniti was done in Corsica.
That's French.
It's like dynamite sometime.
It's amazing.
Sometime.
Sometimes,
You
yeah.
know why?
But it's good, you know, they haven't allowed at least like, you know, buildings and developments and, you know, and they have their own. In a way, it's good, I think.
You're not looking to make a film on this issue of women in India?
Maybe some time later, because right now it's too fresh.
No, it's not
issue.
just about the security. It's generally the role of women. I mean, that society is changing.
You remember Mrityudand? Death sentence?
Yeah, but that was set a few
That's
years ago.
A few years ago,
Yeah.
yeah. But,
It's time to revisit that subject.
yeah, probably yes. You know, it's amazing the way the Indian society is being churned. You know, at this point, it's still trying to find its voice. But social media is very powerful in India. I think everywhere. But you know, in India, people sort of like get together in a matter of minutes. They're all over. And youth, the young people in India, which is almost you'll be surprised, 70% of the population of India is young. They're below the age of 35. So it's there as a huge force, and I see that as a positive because at this point of time it is probably not well directed, but the day they find their voice, the day they become politically aware, because, then I think that there's hope for real democracy to come in. Because right now the entire voting happens on different levels and different, it's caste or community or even money power plays a lot of say in the political elections. All that has to go, and democracy is such a powerful and beautiful way of life, but unfortunately if it's not practiced well, it's a kind of becomes worse. And you have the fear of authoritarian or dictatorship kind of attitude coming into our government, which is not going to be but again, the churning is happening at this point of time. We need newer leaders, we need newer directions, and hopefully the youth will do it.
And can cinema play a role?
I'm absolutely positive. I've continuously made films. You're aware, I've made 7, 8 films, in fact, which deal only with politics and society.
you starting doing documentaries in the 80s? What made you change your way? What did you impact the fiction movies after that?
Well, the desire to reach larger audience.
Larger audience. Yeah.
Yes.